What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with a DFS value picks video for the ZOZO Championship. Going to go over my top 4 plays priced $8,000 and below on Draftkings to give you an idea of a few players to save some salary, perhaps get some ownership leverage as well, and take down some of those large field GPPs. So a lot to get into. Let's go ahead and get this thing rocking. We've got my projections up, and the first value we're going to touch on is Emiliano Grillo at $7,700. And last week, he was surely disappointing over the weekend. Wasn't somebody that I talked up on the channel, but did end up getting exposure and made the cut, but over the weekend was among the worst players in the field. So almost ended up dead last there. Did make a few birdies on Sunday, had a little bit of momentum going into this week, but overall, to me, it's about the pedigree of player. Grillo, one of the best ball strikers in this field, period, let alone of the 7K range. And on top of that, it's a great course fit. We're dealing with a relatively hard golf course when it comes to your ball striking. There's definitely a premium on those elite level accuracy guys. And Emiliano Grillo is not only one of the best approach players we have on tour week in and week out, but he's also one of the best off the tee players. And given that we're supposed to have so much rain there on Thursday, if you haven't seen the weather report already, it's extremely dicey. It's also extremely windy there on Thursday evening. You're going to want players that can keep it in play, that can control their ball flight, and can frankly probably shoot someone like even par. That might be a ceiling round, something like 1 to 2 under par over the first, at least for Thursday. Friday might be a little bit easier, but you're going to have almost typhoon-like conditions, and that's going to lead me to these elite level ball strikers. This is going to be all about saving par rather than going out there and making a bunch of putts. So we saw that at the Fortinet. It was also a birdie fest at the Sanderson Farms. You could classify last week as well, certainly as a birdie fest too. It was a lot more about the putting, right? You could be a little bit, just let's say slightly above average with your ball striking and still set up quite a few birdie opportunities. This is really going to put a premium on that. So I like what I'm seeing from Grillo. The approach stats actually have been a little bit lower than normal here for Grillo, but the putting stats have made up for it. He's been in a torrent stretch when it comes to the flat stick. Still gaining off the tee and on approach. Over the last 50 measured rounds, pretty sure the putting has stayed there. It's almost something that we have to expect from Grillo now, still gaining with the putter, and of course those ever so consistent ball striking stats are going to remain. If we take a look at his event history, so he has played here over the last few years. You can see last year made the cut but finished in 73rd. Sorry, there's no cut at this event, so ended up finishing it nearly dead last. You don't love to see that. And then back in 2019, he finished in 30th. So the 2 times that he showed up here, he's definitely been, I don't know, I'd say lackluster at best, right? I don't think we can look too much into that. Even the recent form, right? You look at the last 2 events, right? 73rd, 5th place, 25th. He's not posting those 2nd to 5th place finishes anymore. So if you're looking for somebody in form that's coming in trending in the right direction, then Grillo probably isn't the right player. But when you compare the names around him, like a Matthew Neesmith, for example, right? From a long-term pedigree perspective, Grillo is a much better player. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. The ball striking stats are a lot more consistent from a Grillo, and you're really buying in at the top of a Matthew Neesmith sort of skill set and at the bottom of a Emiliano Grillo. So if you're looking for a long-term play, somebody who perhaps just needs to return to his baseline to have success at this event, particularly because he's only $7,700, and I think Emiliano Grillo could be your guy. The next value pick we'll touch on is going to be Brendan Steele at $7,400, and from the ball striking perspective, you're looking at almost an identical player to a Grillo. The unfortunate part is that Brendan Steele is in a horrible stretch of putting, and from the long-term perspective, Grillo and Steele's putting are pretty even, right? You're looking at 2 of the worst putters that we have pretty much in any field that you're looking at, but they do pop from time to time. It's just that of late, Grillo has been popping a lot more than not, which is, of course, giving him a lot of that top-end upside. But Brendan Steele, we must not forget about his ball striking stats, because when we look at the last 24 rounds, I mean, it's outstanding, right? Gaining close to 2/3 of a stroke per round off the tee, over 0.6 shots per round with his approach play. And sure, he's losing a stroke per round with the putter, but we've seen him in the past have spike performances. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. Steele gets hot, and typically when he does, he's at the very least in contention, if not winning events, like we've seen over the last 5 to 6 years. Then we take a look at his numbers on bent grass. They're not great, right? Losing close to 2/3 of a stroke per round, but that's not really out of the ordinary. Somebody who pretty much on any surface is going to be among the worst putters in the field, and we're getting him at 7.5%. you can compare him to players around him like a Ricky Fowler, Taylor Moore, who are much more inferior when it comes to their ball striking stats. And at a golf course where I'm expecting it to play extremely difficult, one thing I meant to mention before is it's also going to be wet, which adds a little bit of length. And the rough here is a solid inch longer than what we've seen in years past. So the premium for hitting the fairway is only going to be higher this time around. And then on top of that, the de-emphasis on putting isn't going to be any more drastic than what you're going to see this year. So there's going to be a time to take Brendan Steele around Narashino. Probably going to be this weekend at $7,400, number 33 in the pricing. He's number 27 in modern ranking, top 20 in terms of his fit at Narashino Country Club. It's not like he's popping off of the board, but just from the skill set perspective, I love what we're seeing. And let's look at the event history, see if he has any history around here. Finished in second place last time out. You got to love to see that. Didn't play in 2019, so only 1 year of event history to go off of. The recent form is sketchy. Again, that putter has just held him back. Missed cut after missed cut after missed cut. And his 30th place finish was at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. So it's not like he's been lighting it up in terms of his finishes, but the ball striking stats have been there. So he's laying the foundation for going out there and having a pop performance. Just definitely has to figure out the putter. So if you're looking for a safe play, kind of like an Emiliano Grillo, he's probably not your guy. I'd much rather get to a Grillo than a Brendan Steele. But if you're looking for a true low-owned diamond in the rough that might go out there and win this week, then I think that is Brendan Steele for you. Let's move down to our next pick, which is going to be Martin Laird. If you can't tell, there's a little bit of a trend going on with the skill sets here. Martin Laird, another elite ball striker that struggles with the putter. But if there's one surface that you can play Laird on and that he tends to pop on more than others, you've seen him win the Shriners twice, those bent grass greens. You're getting that same sort of surface over here in Japan this week. So when we take a look at the shots gained metrics, you'll see exactly what's drawing me to him, right? Gaining on approach, gaining around the green. Now the off the tee play, he's not going to gain in bunches, right? He's not as long as somebody like a Brendan Steele or an Emiliano Grillo, but he's going to hit well over the average when it comes to fairways hit. When you take a look at the last 50 measured rounds, you get an idea that that pretty much holds up. So where's he at here? There he is, $77,000. I was looking at $7,100 for a reason, right? Gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, still gaining around the green, and that putter, which typically holds him back, is still a negative. So pretty much playing how we'd expect him to. If he can go out there, hit more fairways than the field average, lean into that approach play like we're used to seeing from a Laird, who's one of the better wedge players that we have on tour, also more than capable of hitting a long iron, which if you saw my course breakdown, this golf course has plenty of short par fours and plenty of long par fours, just none of those in-between ones where you're hitting a mid-iron. So all of that plays into the type of skill set that I'm looking for. And at only $7,000, he's just 3.4% owned. So also a great source of leverage. And the last pick we're going to get to here is Chez Reevie. And you can kind of tell, the irons for all four of these players are their strong suit. Maybe not the best putters on tour. And slowly but surely their off the tee play declines, right? Grillo, prolific off the tee player. Steele's a pretty solid off the tee player. Chez Reevie, though, definitely lacks the distance. And another player that's not the best putter. But one thing that he does well, much like a Martin Laird, is hit fairways in bunches. In fact, one of the most accurate players that we've ever seen on the PGA Tour. And if the rough is going to be gnarly this week, if it's going to be all about your ball striking and being precise, sure, Chez Reevie is not going to get to 15 to 20 under par because of the flat stick. He might win this at 5 under par. That's legitimately, a winner might be something like 5 under par this week with how difficult the conditions look with the weather, all that sort of things. Considering last year, Hideki won by 5 at -15, so the rest of the field was there at -10, and I believe there were 2 guys tied at -10, and then it dropped down to -6. Take out those 3 players, right? And I know that's asking a lot, and you had a winning score last time out of -6, let alone a lot more difficult conditions this time around. It's one of the few tournaments that Chez Reevie can win. So I'm definitely taking him. He's 1.5% owned. He's down here with a lot of guys on the Japan Tour. Brandon Wu, who's a little bit of a wild card off the tee. Lee Hodges is going to get a lot of attention, but he's going to be like 4 or 5 times highly as owned as somebody like a Chez Reevie. So if you're looking for a low-owned pivot that fits the golf course, particularly if you think it plays as difficult as I do this week, that he makes a lot of sense for this contest. If you're looking for all of my projections, so obviously we just touched on our top 4 picks here. They are on my Patreon page, has all of my projections, shots gained, course history, event history for everyone in the field. I have ownership for the entire field also, whether they're in my player pool or not. So we will be doing a live stream later on tonight, but if you're looking for access to everything behind the curtain there, that is how you find it. Link is in the description. All right, fellas, that is all I've got for this week's Value Picks video. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead and smash that like button, but also go ahead and let me know who your favorite value below 8 grand is on Draftkings. We're going to be doing our live stream this evening a little bit earlier than most, so it'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Feel free to stop on by for that. There will also be a link in the description of the video to that. We'll be going through the weather, any last second ownership notes, some GPP strategy, and of course, any of the live questions that you post down in chat. So it's a great resource to have, especially because it's only about an hour and a half before lock. It'll be all the most up-to-date pertinent information for making your lineup. So I look forward to it, guys. I'll see you guys at 6 p.m. Eastern. And until then, best of luck with all of your lineups, any outright bets that you decide to go with, and let's get this cash.